On the morning after Christmas, a mother found a handwritten letter inside her home. It claimed her 6-year-old daughter had been kidnapped. It demanded exactly $118,000 and warned the family not to contact the police. But the child had never left the house. Hours later, her father found her body inside a small room in the basement. Her name was JonBenét Ramsey. And nearly 30 years later, no one has been convicted of her murder. The case would become one of the most famous unsolved crimes in American history. A mystery involving an unusually long ransom note, a contaminated crime scene, conflicting forensic interpretations, an unidentified DNA profile, and a family who lived for years beneath a cloud of suspicion. Was JonBenét killed by someone inside her home? Did an intruder enter during the night? Was the ransom note genuine, or was it written to hide what had really happened? And after decades of investigation, could modern DNA technology finally reveal the answer? JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990. She lived in Boulder, Colorado, with her parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, and her 9-year-old brother, Burke. The family was wealthy. John was a successful businessman. Patsy had previously competed in beauty pageants, and JonBenét had also taken part in children's pageant competitions. After her death, images of JonBenét wearing costumes, makeup, and pageant dresses appeared constantly across television screens. Those images helped turn the case into a national obsession. But behind the headlines, JonBenét was still only 6 years old. A child who enjoyed playing with friends, riding her bicycle, and celebrating Christmas with her family. On December 25, 1996, the Ramsey family attended a Christmas gathering at the home of friends. Later that night, they returned to their large house on 15th Street in Boulder. According to the family, JonBenét had fallen asleep during the journey home. She was taken upstairs and put to bed. Nothing seemed unusual. There was no reported disturbance. No alarm was raised. The house became quiet. Then came the morning of December 26th. At approximately 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey called emergency services. She said her daughter was missing and that she had discovered a ransom note on a staircase inside the house. The document was extraordinary. It was nearly 3 pages long. Its author claimed to represent a small foreign faction. The note demanded $118,000, almost exactly the amount John Ramsey had recently received as a bonus. The writer warned the family not to contact police. But Patsy had already made the call. Officers arrived at the Ramsey home expecting to investigate a kidnapping. Friends and family members also began gathering inside. People moved through the rooms. They comforted the Ramseys. They touched surfaces, opened doors, and walked through areas that might later prove important. The house was not properly secured as a crime scene, and that decision would haunt the investigation for decades. Hours passed. The ransom note suggested that the kidnappers would make contact, but the expected call never came. No instructions followed. No exchange was arranged. No proof was provided that JonBenét was alive. At around 1 o'clock that afternoon, Detective Linda Arndt asked John Ramsey and family friend Fleet White to search the house, looking for anything unusual. They went into the basement. There, behind a closed door, John found JonBenét. Her wrists were bound. Tape covered her mouth. A white blanket lay over part of her body. A cord had been tightened around her neck. Using part of a broken paintbrush as a handle, John lifted his daughter, carried her upstairs, and placed her on the floor. It was an instinctive response from a devastated father, but it also disturbed the scene, moving the body from the room where she had been found and making an already compromised investigation even more difficult. The autopsy concluded that JonBenét had died from strangulation associated with severe trauma to the head. Her skull had been fractured. Her death was officially classified as a homicide. Investigators now faced a disturbing contradiction. The ransom note described a kidnapping, but JonBenét had been killed inside her own home. Why would a kidnapper write such a long message, then leave the victim behind? Why was the note written using paper and a pen belonging to the Ramsey family? Why did the demanded amount closely match John's bonus? And how could an intruder spend enough time inside the house to write or copy such a lengthy letter without waking anyone? Suspicion quickly moved toward the family. Investigators examined John and Patsy's statements. They analyzed the ransom note. Handwriting experts studied whether Patsy could have written it. Some analysts believed she could not be eliminated as its author. Others concluded that the evidence was insufficient, or that she was unlikely to have written it. No definitive handwriting identification was ever established. The Ramseys consistently denied involvement. They maintained that an intruder entered their home, killed JonBenét, and escaped before morning. Supporters of the intruder theory pointed toward possible access through a basement window, unidentified marks and objects, and biological material found on JonBenét's clothing. One investigator who strongly supported this possibility was retired Detective Lou Smith. After reviewing the case, he argued that police had focused too heavily on the family and had failed to fully pursue evidence suggesting an outsider entered the house. But other investigators remained skeptical. They questioned how an intruder could navigate the large house, write the ransom note, commit the murder, and leave without being detected. The basement itself contained numerous rooms and storage areas. Someone unfamiliar with the house could have struggled to find their way through it in darkness, unless they had been inside before. Then came another major development. In 1999, a Colorado grand jury voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey. The proposed charges did not directly accuse either parent of personally killing JonBenét. Instead, they alleged that the parents had allowed her to be placed in a dangerous situation and had assisted someone who committed a crime. But the district attorney declined to prosecute. He believed the available evidence was insufficient to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. The existence of those unsigned indictments remained secret for years. No member of the Ramsey family was ever charged. John and Patsy continued to insist they were innocent. Their son Burke also denied involvement. Patsy died from cancer in 2006, without ever learning who killed her daughter. Meanwhile, DNA evidence began changing the direction of the investigation. Material recovered from JonBenét's clothing produced genetic information associated with an unidentified male. Members of the Ramsey family were excluded as contributors to a key profile. In 2008, the Boulder County District Attorney sent John Ramsey a letter stating that the DNA evidence cleared the family, but the meaning of that evidence remains disputed. Some experts believe the unknown profile may belong to JonBenét's killer. Others warn that small or mixed DNA samples can be difficult to interpret. The material might have been transferred innocently, introduced during manufacturing, or deposited through contamination. DNA can identify a person, but only if investigators can establish where it came from, when it was deposited, and whether it is genuinely connected to the crime. That uncertainty has repeatedly shifted public opinion. 1 year, the evidence appears to support an intruder. Another, experts question whether the DNA can identify anyone conclusively. The investigation has examined numerous possible suspects. Some confessed, then proved unable to provide reliable details. Others were investigated and eliminated. No known suspect has been conclusively linked to the crime through physical evidence. And as the years passed, the case became buried beneath documentaries, books, television specials, lawsuits, online theories, and accusations against people who were never convicted of anything. Today, the Boulder Police Department continues to classify JonBenét's death as an open homicide. Investigators say they have received more than 21,000 tips, letters, and emails, interviewed or spoken with more than 1,000 people, and worked with the FBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the district attorney, and outside forensic laboratories. In 2025, police said they had conducted new interviews, re-interviewed individuals, collected new evidence, and tested or retested existing items. The greatest hope may lie in developing DNA technology. Forensic genetic genealogy has helped solve crimes that remained cold for decades. If investigators can obtain a suitable profile from evidence in this case, it could potentially be compared with genetic family trees, leading detectives toward the identity of an unknown contributor. But that outcome is not guaranteed. The available DNA may be too limited, too mixed, or unrelated to the killer. Nearly 30 years after JonBenét Ramsey was murdered, two competing stories still dominate the case. In one, someone inside the house knew what happened, and the ransom note was created to hide the truth. In the other, an intruder entered during the night, committed an unthinkable crime, and escaped while leaving behind only fragments of evidence. Both theories contain unanswered questions. Neither has been proven in court. Somewhere beneath the spectacle, the pageant photographs, the television debates, and the endless accusations, was a 6-year-old girl. JonBenét deserved to grow up. She deserved a life beyond the image preserved in those Christmas photographs. And she deserves an investigation guided by evidence, not entertainment, rumor, or assumption. Perhaps the answer remains hidden inside the ransom note. Perhaps it lies within a sample collected decades ago. Perhaps someone still remembers something they have never revealed. Or perhaps the truth was damaged during the first chaotic hours, when a kidnapping scene became a murder scene, and evidence disappeared beneath the footsteps of everyone trying to help. The question is no longer whether the mystery can attract attention. It has done that for decades. The question is whether science, evidence, and one overlooked detail can finally reveal who killed JonBenét Ramsey. If you found this documentary informative, subscribe to Vanished UK for carefully researched stories about unresolved murders and unexplained disappearances.
Please keep all discussion respectful, and remember that suspicion is not proof. Until evidence identifies the person responsible, the murder of JonBenét Ramsey remains unsolved.